And welcome in to Purple Daily. Full disclosure, as we start recording this episode today, the Vikings are meeting to discuss whether they will or won't practice today. There have been all kinds of boycotts across sports. NBA boycotted last night, WNBA, MLS, some Major League Baseball games. Sounds like the NBA is going to come back and play, but NFL teams are now deciding whether they are going to at least pause their practice schedules. We had a full discussion about that and the current issues in and around sports in the country on the Mackey Judd podcast, which you can find anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and scorenorth.com. But we're here to shine maybe a positive light on the Vikings for this episode, depending on how positive we are about their upside. Judd Zulgad, I'm on VegasInsider.com right now, looking at over-under win totals for the 2020 season. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens are both at 11.5 over-under. 49ers, 10.5. You got to scroll down kind of to the middle of the pack to get the Vikings, who have a 9 next to their name as the over-under. So my question to you is not whether they will be over or under 9. It is if they perform at their peak capability in 2020, what do you think the best case scenario is? How far can this team go if everything clicks in 2020?
Well, let's talk about first during the course of the regular season, okay? Let's talk about wins first and then go from there. I think if they perform to the peak of their capability, because this division doesn't scare me, so it's not like, well, the Green Bay Packers got it. You're playing for a wild card. If they play to the peak of their capability, their cornerbacks excel. Their nose tackle position doesn't end up being as big a weakness as I think it might be. They've certainly got offensive components, Phil. I think they can win the division, and I think to the peak of their capability, you're talking about a team that can win 10 to 11 games. So I think the peak is pretty good. Again, I'll come back to this. It's not like the division scares me. So like if I was to tell you right now that they were going to sweep the Lions and the Bears.
Did they ever sweep the Bears, though?
No, but let's just say, but they could. I mean, there's no rule that says you can't go into Soldier Bleeping Field and win football games. I don't think. And then
there has been, according to Vikings history, apparently.
Okay, let's say they're going to split with the Bears and the Packers and sweep Matt Patricia's Lions, which would not be a shock.
They should do that.
I don't think that you would say, that's crazy. They can't do that. So, look. I think there's a lot of question marks, but this applies to the entire league in pandemic football. I think there's a lot of question marks about the Vikings, and do I think that their roster appears far more geared for success in 2021 than 2020? Yes, I do. But I also don't look at the Vikings, and we rarely do, and see, oh, that's a bad football team. So I think that they could, if they excel and reach the peak of what they can do, I think if you were to put them on a division championship and 11 wins, that's not completely outlandish.
Okay. What about you, Dex? If everything clicks, what does it look like for you?
Best case scenario, if everything clicks, your defense still is able to be a top 10 unit even with new pieces in the fold. If Adam Thielen can stay healthy, if all your playmakers can also stay on the field and contribute, I think you're probably looking at an 11 to 12 win football team. Best case scenario. I would say most likely a 12 win football team in the best case. I think that the Vikings still can be that team if everything clicks, if the offensive line can hold up Cousins. But best case, you're looking at a 12-win football team. More realistically, probably between 8 and 10.
So I'm just trying to think of all the things that would go into like the best case scenario check boxes. And I'll just go down a list and you guys can go down this list with me. I think the best case scenario offensively would include, your health is a given, right? Like you're assuming that Kirk Cousins doesn't catch COVID or something.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're just assuming health across the board.
Yep.
So Dalvin Cook would be healthy and he would play 15 or 16. When I say healthy, I mean like he can miss a game or something.
But he's not missing 8 games.
Yep. And when he comes back and plays a game or two, he's not like remember when for a game or two he was trying to like manage how he fell, almost like a professional wrestler.
Yes.
Because if he fell on the wrong spot, then his shoulder was going to have shooting pain or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So just none of that stuff.
Okay.
Irv Smith emerges as a beast pass-catching tight end, a guy who's just like 50 or 60 catches. He's clearly emerging as one of the, let's say, tier 2 pass-catching tight ends in the NFL. That would be a best-case scenario. Justin Jefferson gets it right away. It still has room to grow in year 2, 3, 4, but a guy who can catch 50, 60 passes.
And Smith helps a lot there too.
Yep. But like both those guys kind of emerging as big-time viable offensive weapons. That's part of my best-case scenario.
Sure.
I think on the defensive side, well, let me go back to offense. The offensive line, I don't think there's any scenario in which they're just like a top 5 offensive line. I would just be shocked. Like Riley Reif kind of is what he is. If Riley Reif can keep being an average left tackle, that's probably the best-case scenario. There's, Brian O'Neill emerging as one of the better right tackles could be part of the best-case scenario, but you've got 3 major question marks on the interior, and I think best-case scenario, realistic best-case scenario, 2 out of the 3 spots work out for you, and one of them is kind of revolving between like 3 different guys.
I think the safest thing to say about the line is best case for 2020 to a large extent, Cougs schemes you to success.
Yep.
Like the scheme just works.
Yep. You're not going to be
block
like
well again and protect Cousins well.
Yeah, and you're not going to be like what Dallas's offensive line has been for the better part of the. But
the scheme should work.
Realistic best case scenario, the scheme works and you can patchwork the interior enough. On the defensive side, I think the best case scenario looks like either Jeff Gladney or Cam Dantzler just instantly getting it, and you put them with Holton Hill, healthy and not suspended, and Mike Hughes healthy, and like you've got a good collection of young, spry cornerbacks. I think the best case scenario for the defense would also have to include Odenigbo emerging as maybe a double-digit sack guy opposite of
Danielle Hunter actually playing and practicing again.
Yeah, which hasn't happened. Now it's been 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since he's practiced.
It's not good, baby.
And so if all of those things happen, and Adam Thielen plays a full season, I'm with Declan. I could see this team winning maybe 12 games. Like their schedule is pretty brutal, and you've got, man, like the
11
amount of
and
top
5 would
quarterbacks
be
you
really
play.
good, boys.
I agree.
11 and 5 would be a hell of a year for a team that has a lot of unknowns right now.
I don't think, like the best case scenario for the Ravens is like 15-1, right? The Chiefs are like 14-2, 15-1.
12 or 13 games, yeah.
I don't think there is that type of best case scenario in the Vikings plans or cards. But like 11 or 12 wins, I think their best case scenario stops short of the Super Bowl. I think it's NFC title game this season and then build off of it for 2020.
Oh, I agree completely. Yeah.
It's hard to envision a scenario where they would get past Niners, Tampa Bay, and Tom Brady, even what New Orleans has put together. And you could even throw in like Philadelphia bouncing back, and Dallas should be better this season. Like the NFC is loaded. So I would be shocked if even best case scenario if they were to make it through that gauntlet and get to the Super Bowl.
If you got to the conference title game and your opponent had time to scheme for you pretty thoroughly as well, I think that the Vikings have too many weaknesses that could be preyed upon to get you through to a Super Bowl, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I think that the game plan that we saw in the 2017 conference title game from Philadelphia would be the type of thing, it might not be that exact game plan, but would be the type of thing to come back and bite you in the butt. So I would agree. I think that you could make a bit of a playoff run, but I really struggle. Now, next year, I think it's possible. But this year, I think it would be very tough. But this is the type of team, and it's not a surprise, where how often in the last 35 years have you said, they got no shot. A few times, but it's a very rare preseason Vikings conversation to say. I see about 4 wins there.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I see about 5 wins.
When is the last time you went into a Viking season and said, "Boy, this is going to be 4-12"? Like there are a lot of fan bases.
Surprising?
The Lions fans go in every year, pretty much thinking that.
You know when Tice took over for Denny. I could have seen some, I don't know about this, but they always seem to come out not great, but certainly okay. Like the 3 and 4 win seasons happen, but they happen once every 25 years, something like that?
I honestly think
More than that?
I think Mike Zimmer's floor is so much higher than, and in the roster too, Mike Zimmer plus the roster. The fact that we did this episode a couple weeks ago and looked at like, okay, what's the worst case scenario for his defense? And he's been a head coach or a defensive coordinator for 20 years in the NFL. And if you take out that Bobby Petrino Falcons disaster in 2007, where it was just like that guy quit halfway through the season, the worst case scenario for a Mike Zimmer defense is 19th in yardage. Yeah. And so if you have a top 20 defense at worst in 2020, and you've got a top 15 at worst quarterback in Kirk Cousins, like that recipe with a non-train wreck defense and a top half of the league quarterback, that's 7 wins. That's 6 or 7 wins, automatically right there.
I agree with that.
And then you kind of build off of that. So, all right. So I'm saying, is there any scenario in which you guys think they can win the Super Bowl? Are we just to be clear here?
I
So
don't.
I don't think so.
If
I'd be shocked.
Pat Mahomes' arms fall off, and if Lamar Jackson blows out his leg, and Tom Brady is who he is at 43, because I don't think he's that good anymore, then yes, I do think they can win the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. So
I
I think
think
we
the
need a
Super-
couple
Sorry, did
injuries and like a bus crash or something.
Correct.
I think the representative in the Super Bowl from the NFC is going to come from the West. I think the West is going to end up being stacked.
The West, it's
I
possible
really
that
like
the
the
Rams
West.
could be the weak link in the West, and the
I
Rams
know.
played in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Or Seattle, finally. But yes, it's going to be absolutely stacked.
All right. Next question for you guys. So did you know, as we sit here today, the NFL starts in 2 weeks with Thursday night games? 2 weeks? We're 2 weeks. It doesn't feel like we're 2 weeks away just because like there's been no preseason games.
NBC, you say?
Man, hold on a second. Try that one more time.
NBC, you say? Should I try it again? Pandemic be damned. Take that, pandemic.
I'm excited for the Chris Collinsworth slide-in, but from a little bit further away.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. It's going to be a wider shot with Chris Collinsworth.
What are they gonna do?
Sliding in.
He's
Can he
gonna,
slide
stop?
into his Zoom?
He's going to have to stop halfway.
Can he just do...
Now, are they all going to be in stadiums? Do we know that yet?
What, the announcers?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Like, are they going to travel and be in stadiums, or will they be at home?
Chris, you're on mute. Chris,
Unmute yourself.
Al, unmute your microphone. Yeah, it's on the left side of the Zoom.
Turn on the video, Al. Turn on the video. Nobody can see you, Al.
So, what do you guys think football is going to look like? Even when you have 4 preseason games, football in September is pretty bad. Like, offenses aren't clicking, and there's more penalties
It
and
takes
stuff.
it deep into October to get some, I think, really crisp games consistently.
once we get to late October, November, December, like the NFL is clicking, and you start to really see some good play. But September's kind of just hold on for your life. And this September, there will be no preseason games leading you up to it. So you'll have rookies that are just stepping onto the freeway for the first time, and quarterbacks that have not had like full speed, timing exercise with receivers. So what do you think football looks like in 2 weeks?
Oh, I think it's going to be absolutely dreadful. I think it's going to be a month plus of putrid action on NBC. Coming up next, people that aren't prepared to do their job in any way, shape, or form try and do their job. Will they get COVID? You're going to find out. 7:30 sharp. I think it's going to be awful. But, I mean, I'll take it. I'll watch it. I'm not going to not watch it. But, look, you tell me this. How are, aside from the most experienced veteran units that have worked together for years, and in this league that really is not the case very much at all, how are offenses going to click? Like, they have no preseason games. They've practiced. They have, I can't tell you how limited the work in practice is. Like, they're not out there twice a day in full pads. They're not playing full games. The Vikes are coming downtown on Friday to try and play some type of scrimmage, but that's really going to be their scrimmage. So I fully expect, and it's not the player's fault or the coach's fault. I think that take what we ordinarily see in September into October and take it down 5 notches from there. Defenses aren't going to be great, and tackling is going to be awful. But I am far more concerned or reticent to what we're going to see offensively, which I think is going to be out of sync. I think it's going to be ugly. And you know what? I think people won't care because it's football.
I feel like it just no one cares. Just
I don't think they'll care.
Football.
Because coming up next.
Coming up next, the NFL molds itself into the XFL with quarterbacks who can't complete a pass.
Yes, that's what it's going to be.
Linemen who jump off sides every 3 plays, and wide receivers running the wrong routes.
Tonight on NBC.
Yeah.
Well, I actually do think it's going to look more like the XFL for the first month then, because like the XFL comes along and all right, we get football, but it's like, all right, these guys have been practicing together.
But
for
I
the
do
first
quit
time
watching
for like
that.
a month.
I
and-
do quit with that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll quit on this.
I mean, the teams that are going to have the most problems are teams that are trying to install, like if it's new coaches, new coordinators, and you're trying to install a new system over Zoom for 5 months.
Yeah.
What are you going to look like in weeks 1 and 2? Advantage Vikings, because at least you've got some familiarity with Kubiak to Cousins to the
offensively,
offensive linemen.
you're
and like
right.
it's the same scheme. You know, there might be some tweaks here and there. But I think we're just going to have to swallow hard in September and just be grateful that football is back and see what
Guys-
happens as they get into October.
Guys can't tackle when they've ordinarily played a little bit, right? Who's going to be able to tackle now? I mean, but just the fundamentals of things. It sounds stupid, but like tackling is off. It's going to be non-existent in
these full team practices, like with the Vikings, they're not allowing tackling, right? Like, can you tackle a running back?
You could if you wanted to, but they don't. And so basically, they apply what they call thud drills, which is I can wrap you up, but I don't take you to the ground. But I'm just saying the full speed tackling, it's not being done.
So you haven't had a full. So you're gonna have guys who have not tackled anybody
in months.
8 months.
Yes.
Or in some cases, if you're a college player, maybe even longer.
Yes.
If you didn't play in your bowl game or something.
Yes. So if you are a star receiver and you catch a ball, a guy trying to tackle you is going to be like, I don't really want to do this.
Ole, 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 ole.
Coming up next, flag football makes its debut in the NFL. Can Cam Dantzler take the flag from DeAndre Hopkins' belt? We'll find out. But first, they undergo COVID tests, which we're going to allow you to watch live because we want to give you the excitement. Oh, it looks like Hopkins didn't pass the COVID test, so he's out.
If the NFL offered just like a straight up, no commentary, anything, if you could just watch an hour of players coming in and getting their temperatures checked and getting the nose swab COVID test,
It would get ratings.
Would people watch it?
Yes.
It might be more popular than baseball.
Here's Bill Belichick, right? Bill Belichick is getting a swab in his nose.
What's
Stand
that,
here
Bob?
as we watch.
What's that, Bob? 99.9? Belichick won't be on the sidelines tonight.
Sponsored by Bud Light.
Thermometer
Amazing.
company should sponsor it.
So, all right. Well, so we've decided the football is going to be mostly.
But don't you guys think? Yeah, I mean, I
agree.
just don't see how it's going to be good.
No, it's
And
it's
we'll
hard to
watch.
justify. But 2 weeks, we are 2 weeks away from the NFL season.
Hey, are people still playing fantasy football as much now, or is that not
I'm in 4
as
leagues.
big a deal this year?
4 leagues.
Whoa.
Or
Whoa.
Most leagues I've ever been in. Yep.
You're in 4.
Here's the best part. Okay?
Drafts all done?
No, haven't drafted yet. The first draft, I think, is this coming weekend.
Oh,
on
my
Sunday night.
God.
Yeah.
4?
They're all online drafts.
Good luck with that marriage
So-
you get going.
Well, we have an agreement. Like she'll,
That's nice.
she'll, we'll sit there together.
What?
And, yeah, they're all online drafts. Like I'm just on my computer, anyways.
you're going to have all the boys over in a pandemic over at
No.
the wife's house. to do
Because
a live draft.
Saturdays are for the boys, so
All right. I do get questions on my fantasy baseball annual draft. I'm the only person
She
that is
tweeted
apparently
about
still
it.
in a fantasy baseball draft.
she tweeted about the fact that you were gone all day that one time.
Yeah.
First year of your marriage.
It's once a year. It's always like the last weekend in March, right before the regular season starts. And it's a league that I've been in for half of my life. I got into that league when I was 17. I'm now 35. And it's a bunch of I got into the league originally with a couple of high school friends, and then those guys are out of the league now. So it's just like random dudes from the suburbs that are now in their like 50s, and they're all great. And I just venture off to, I think it's in Ramsey's where we do the draft every single year. And my wife's always like, who are these people? Like, I've never met any of them.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm
Don't worry about it. We'll be back in 8 hours.
team wife on this one, by the way.
Why? It's fantasy baseball.
I used to do it. It took way too long.
I just swung a big trade yesterday. Javi Baez,
What'd you
the
trade, Paul
newest
Goldschmidt?
member of Summer Madness. That's right.
You got Javi Baez?
Bought low on Javi Baez.
Somebody got robbed on that one. I
But
would be giving up Javi Baez.
Of the 4 fantasy football leagues that I'm sure everyone is dying to hear about here, I'm going to force this down your throat. So I finally got into I've been part of Hubbard Broadcasting for 10 years now.
Yeah.
This is my first year in the Hubbard Radio Fantasy Football League. Finally got the invite. I don't know if someone died or what
Wait.
happened, but I finally got the
I
invite.
politely declined last year.
What's the one
So
downstairs?
they invited you before they invited me.
Correct.
I've been here for 10 years.
I've been here for 2 and 2.
But there's one downstairs that Chris Long does.
That's
That's
the
not
TV.
the
That's
same
the
one.
one. That's the one he invited me to.
No, that's the
Oh, no,
that's
that's
the
TV one.
Oh.
So which one are you talking about, Phil?
Got it.
There's a Hubbard Radio one.
Who runs it?
Jeremy Sinan, our VP of Digital. And
I can't.
I've
make
worked
it,
with
by the
Jeremy.
way. I
I've worked
can't
with
do it,
Jeremy
Dex.
for the better part of 15 years because we worked together at
And
a
he
different
finally
station
got you
too.
in?
Took him 15 years
So
to
you're
invite
in
me.
4 leagues. So you're in Chris Long's league, Sinan's league. Who else's league?
College friends. It's always a good one to keep in touch with college friends. And then another one with college friends, a separate group of college friends.
Old friends, overrated. Get rid of them.
It's the only touch
Spring.
point.
It's like spring. Exactly. Take this out. You don't have to worry about them anymore.
You don't want friends, is the moral of this episode.
2020 has taught me one
Coming up
lesson.
next, Judd Zolgad sits alone with his feelings and IPAs.
2020.
Ignoring Facebook friend requests. It's the NFL
You know what?
on NBC.
Fire it up. Coming up next, Judd Zolgad teaches you that social distancing isn't necessary if you had no social interaction to begin with. How to eliminate the remaining friends you have and enjoy your time at home with your dog and the television.
How to ghost your entire social life. Next.
Why didn't I get COVID? Because I didn't go near a damn person.
And that's a wrap on this episode
4
of
leagues.
Purple Daily.
4 leagues.
That's right. I'll help. You guys can help make the decisions on
No,
draft night.
no,
I'll
no,
be
no,
texting you
no.
all night.
Declan's busy, so am I.
Yep.
Be great. I got Lamar Jackson as a
No.
keeper. Come on.
Dex, I'm
Nope.
awesome.
I
had
won
stuff
my
going
league, rode off in the sunset 5 years ago.
I
I'm out.
love this.
Done.
If any of you
Bravo, Declan.
If any of you listeners or viewers want to hear more about my fantasy leagues, just hit me up at Phil Mackey on Twitter. I'll tell you all about them. It'll be great. That's a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. We'll see you next time.